I'm Joel Slutsky at Maxxess Systems. I'm here with Zishan Ahmed. Zishan is an expert in security systems, and we're going to discuss the Oxford High School incident in Michigan. Before I start, I think it comes from both of us. Our hearts go out to the families involved in this tragedy. We're going to be talking about it, but we're one step removed. We both want to commend the first responders that got there so quick and in disarming the shooter. That in itself saved a lot of lives. So as we get into this, Zishan, time is key in all of these matters. No matter how you feel about whether it could be prevented or not, we both agree that time is of the essence. And the shooter actually came out of the washroom and started shooting. I think it was at 12:51, and by 12:52, the police had a report that there was shots fired, and then 3 minutes later, they were actually at the school. That's terrific timing, and the shooter put down the gun and everything stopped. There was obviously a loss of 4 lives, and others were hurt, but the timing on this thing is much better than we normally see. The question is it preventable? I know we don't agree on this.
Yeah.
You feel that there are many ways of preventing it. I feel like you may not be able to prevent it, but you can certainly cut down the time, and that communications and coordination can not only cut down the time, but they could cut down the lethality of whatever happened. So let's walk through it and see what you come up with. I'd like to divide it into 3 parts. There's a part that says before the incident.
Yeah.
And then we can talk after that. We can talk about during the incident, and then this vague thing called after the incident, because it's hard to ever put a finish line on this thing. Let's talk about before the incident. Why do you feel it could be preventable?
So before the incident, there were a number of red flags that the school had already identified, but I don't think they did their best in acting upon. First off was one major red flag was that the student had posted online on social media that he had gotten a new gun, which his parents had provided him for his 15th birthday. That by itself, I think, should have shut off some pretty big red alarms for the school itself. In addition to that, they had other red flags, such as during numerous activities, the student would depict and draw himself killing his fellow students or a teacher, where he's actively shooting them with multiple injuries, and in a number of other, you could say, related posts. You would say depressing thoughts, saying my life doesn't matter. This world is going to end anyways. So not one incident itself would have triggered a major investigation that it should have had, but a combination of all these red flags that the school was aware of just did not act upon prior till the shooting.
Yeah, it's in my mind, it's all communications and coordination and what have you, and it's amazing to me that there's not a clear methodology for when something like this happens. The fact that he was actually called in, they talked to him, and then let him go back to the classroom. Nobody checked his backpack or locker or whatever they have there. It says a lot that as a society, we're not set up for this. So one of the things that I find of interest, I remember that the head of security of the Marriott Hotel once told me that there's never an incident, whether it be a terrorist incident or any other type of incident, that there isn't something happening beforehand, that they either go on social media or they write something or they case in this case, the hotel. Um, I don't know how you feel about it, but this is the part that you want to pick up on as quick as possible. It's the one time you can mitigate death and destruction.
Yeah, so relaying that back to security, you could have prevented all of this, people from dying and people being injured, all this litigation that's going to be happening soon. Everybody's getting in trouble now. All that could be prevented if they were to communicate the proper procedures, and or have a procedure in place when of these red flags were to occur.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I think that's sort of, we agree on the before.
Yes.
That it's preventable if there's a clear understanding of what you should be doing. I don't think there is a clear understanding, not only this high school, but others as well that we've seen in the past.
Yeah. So relaying those red flags back to security. So if you had a solution in place that would actively monitor these threats you have from social media and being able to identify those red flags, communicate those red flags to your team internally, and respond to those events prior to they happen. One phrase we use a lot is starting the curtain fire before it spreads to the entire facility. So you want to be able to catch the problem while it's still small.
Starting the curtain fire?
Starting the curtain fire. Is that the right
Catching
word? Catching the curtain fire.
Uh-huh.
So catching the curtain fire before it engulfs the entire building in fire. So catching these red flags prior
you're right.
to before.
A curtain going on fire in a trash can is controllable. You start to let the house go up in blazes, you've lost control.
So if you wanted to monitor these threats to your facility, you want to have a solution that's out there monitoring social media and these threats that are happening online. You can administer an individual person to do that, but a system is going to be so much more proactive and much more robust.
A system like data miner,
a data miner is a great example. They use AI to monitor different threats that are being reported online, and if you're their customer, you get those reports.
So that's beforehand. That's where you really want to catch the event as early as possible, or the potential of an event. But once the event starts, I know, here's where we disagree a little bit. I know that you're a big advocate of shot location and really state-of-the-art type hardware. My feeling is once it's started, communications is the key, because you've got to inform people that there's a problem going on. You're getting responses from people who are saying what is going on, and so just an orderly communications means a lot. We had a situation of a concert where the band kept playing and people were getting squashed at the concert, and the communications wasn't there. Whatever you set up, I agree with you that systems are valuable, but I think that what I found mostly is that communications and coordination are paramount. If you could say, "Are you okay?" Just that simple question is important.
But you're having people saying those
Yes.
questions. So if you had a system in place, the system would automatically trigger and correspond to the procedure that is set in place. So there's a human factor there.
Good point. And in the latest Insight that we sell, which is just a communication system, we can pre-can certain routines so they go out and faster than a human could get out.
Yeah. So let's say you had the system in place. So let's say your solution that you implemented for monitoring social media threats was not working, and you didn't get any of those. So when this suspect came onto the school campus and fired that first shot, the system would have detected it, saying, okay, it's a 9mm weapon. It would notify you on where that shot happened, and then automatically notify the administrators and local authorities or first responders, as well as, depending on what the procedures in place, are automatically initiated the lockdown. So the time frame from what we've seen is that when they found out about the shooting happening, he had already fired a number of shots. So yeah, he shot about 30 shots through this entire process. So the first couple of shots, people went into panic. People were trying to communicate what's going on, but they had no ideal platform, or there were so many different channels of communication that no one could identify what was actually going on. But if the system detects it, it would automatically go into lockdown, notify the people that this has been going on, and what the next procedures is for depending on what
I
the
guess
customer.
what you're saying is a school needs a system that allows for lockdown, allows for physical control,
Mhm.
but it also needs a system that allows for communications and coordination, which is information control.
Yeah. So that's where you and I disagree on. I think systems have a much bigger role to play, and I think you feel it's more people oriented.
Yeah, I think both of them have to be in place, but
Mhm.
I tend to favor the communications and coordination.
Okay. So when we talk about preventable systems, two systems is for when this active shooter does come on site. You have gun recognition system that detects if the assailant is actually holding a weapon prior to the weapon being shot, and then you have gunshot recognition systems that tell you when a shot has been fired and the caliber of the weapon that.
So it's sort of
was
an
shot.
object recognition that there's
Yes.
either a rifle or a pistol in the hand.
So with the gun recognition systems, you have to have some sort of a VMS system in place. That's also known as a CCTV system that has those analytics capabilities, where
Mhm.
you can take those analytics and say, if anything remotely looks like a gun, I want to be notified of it. That goes into what you want, notifying people.
Mhm.
Where we could say, hey, if a gun is detected in terms of a design or recognition of it, I want that to go to my access control
Mhm.
system and lock down my doors immediately
Mhm.
and
I
notify
guess
me.
what you're saying is it requires both the physical security,
Hmm.
which is the system side, and the people security, which is the communication
Yeah.
side.
So we be able to capture or be notified and communicate this to the right people prior to him even shooting a single round.
Mhm.
But the only thing, the downside of that, you would be is location of those cameras, being able
Mhm.
to locate. Okay, if most of the time you'll see a gun recognition system on the exterior of the buildings. Well, in this scenario, the assailant actually took it from the bathroom out into the
Mhm.
hallway and started shooting.
Mhm.
So you would have to strategically place these particular cameras running this analytics
Yeah,
at key
probably the most
locations.
difficult is the last one. You never know, is it ended?
Yeah.
The only way you know it's ended is that the first responders got there and they've secured the facilities and they can give you an all clear. Um, that to me is even the most important part of communications and coordination. That what you're trying to do is you're trying to get people out to a mustering site away from the
Mhm.
facilities. You're trying to um, have them uh, tell you if they're okay, and you're trying to. Well, we saw that with the policemen
Mhm.
coming in, and the students wouldn't let him in the room.
Yeah.
And then when he said, "Hey, what do you want me to do? Show my badge, bro?"
Take that risk right now. I can't hear you. We're not taking that risk right now. Okay, well, come to the door. Look at my bag, bro.
Yeah, bro.
He said bro.
He said bro. Red flag.
To them, that was a big red flag that he may not be. He may be still part of the
So
assailant.
going back to the system side of it, so that was people communicating, say, "Hey, I'm a legitimate person. I'm here to help you," but because of lack of communication,
Yeah,
they weren't
yeah.
connecting on that. So the way I would have responded to that is having, if you had an access control system, having a box somewhere at a secret location or at a designated location. So when first responders do come on site for those kinds of events, you would provide them a unique badge that has access to all doors, and they would have to announce themselves how they did in that video. So in this scenario, the police would just come in, use that badge he would gotten at this designated location. He would badge in. He would be the only person that would have access to that door. Where the assailant would try to attempt to get into the door, he could shoot the lock, he could shoot the door. Door will not unlock unless you're a designated first responder. And the
Mhm.
first responders will only gain access from this location, from
So
this
on the newest
key
systems that
credentials.
we have, we actually can identify on the floor plan where the cameras are, where all of the key points are. And that's tied to the communication system. But, basically, if you're a student in a situation like that, you don't know today we can look at it and say, oh, it was another student, and here's what happened. They talked to him, then they let him go back to class for whatever reason. And that's what happened. And we tend to look at the solution in light of what really happened. When you're in a situation like that, you don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
And so you're sitting there saying, I don't know if this is 10 people, one person, is it a student? Is it a student and some others? Who is it? Is it a terrorist attack? You just don't know.
Yeah.
That's the communication part that I always talk about. One of the most important parts when we talk about after the event is the ability to gather up the students. You got students scattering all over the place. You got some that are going to where they should be going. Some are in the confusion, end up where they shouldn't be. Some have seen the shooter, some haven't seen the shooter, some are hurt, some aren't. Can you comment on that as far as?
Yeah. So according to some of the reports that we've read, that a lot of the students ended up going to a grocery store, and being there and then just waiting till get next actions from the school and saying, where do we go next? But if you had a mustering system there where you can say, okay, who do we have here at the grocery store? Who's out in the field? Who's missing? Who's not? And be able to aggregate that data and say, okay, everybody's here. No one needs help. Or if someone is missing, where are they? I know that Maxxess has a system in place called Insight, where it allows you to find out where all these students are in a case of emergency.
That's a good point. And, that's really important because if you go to other incidents that we've had in the past, sometimes the shooter goes out with the other students. They try to escape the event. And so there's a lot of information content there that you want to be able to call upon. And not only what they've seen, are they there? A teacher has to know, teacher's responsible for their classroom.
Yeah.
Where is his or her classroom? Are they right there with her at the grocery store? Or are they spread to the four winds at this point?
That would also help in reunification of the students with their parents and streamlining that process, because post-mortem after this kind of event, the chaos that everybody kind of experiences, from first responders to teachers to principals, superintendents, the students, apart from just the stress of being in that situation, but the stress of trying to find out where to go next and waiting until you get to hear the all clear. The sooner you can get people through that process in homes with their families, I think that's better.
I guess when you look at this conversation, you're saying to me, look, there are systems out there that would help mitigate this type of problem. And I guess I'm saying, yeah, it can, but that doesn't mean you got 100% protection of this problem not occurring again. And if it does occur, I think communications is the most important thing. You've said, yeah, that may be what you think, but you can augment it with other kind of subsystems. I think one of the nice things is that, at least from a Maxxess standpoint, is that we've integrated both the physical system and the people portion of the system. So the communications and the technology are automated.
Yeah.
Well, just maybe to wrap this up, Zishan, I think that, from a Maxxess standpoint, we absolutely want to help schools and churches and municipalities and nonprofits. We have a program to do that. We're committed to helping them put the systems in place, both from what you're talking about, physical security, and from what I'm talking about, which is the communication side. Yeah, one of the things that we want to do is we want to be more than just a supplier of equipment. We've actually have people that are trained to work with the schools, to help them set up the system design, the coordination. It's really important to have a platform that interfaces with all of these physical and communication modules. So I think at the end, we're gonna have a noted where you
Yeah.
can
So you'll probably see there.
contact us.
Yeah, so you'll probably see an email, phone number there down below. To give us a call, send us an email if you have any questions or concerns about designing security systems or getting funding for your security systems. And if you're a parent, student, faculty member at a school, or you have questions on how you could respond to these kinds of events, feel free to give us a call or give us a ring, and we'll help you out.